My mother-in-law tried to squeeze into my wedding dress, destroying it, and then refused to pay for the damages or even apologize. On the day I picked out my wedding dress, she commented, "I wonder if that still fits me." I jokingly replied, "Maybe, but you're not trying it on," she insisted, saying, "Just to see how it fits me." What's the problem? Despite my explanations, she wouldn't listen, even crying crocodile tears about how she never got to have a wedding. I retorted, "And why didn't you?" "Oh yeah, you cheated on your fiancé." Admit I crossed the line, but what she did next was much worse. She came over to talk it out, but when she excused herself to the bathroom, she didn't return for a long time. When I went to check on her, I heard grunting in my bedroom. My world stopped when I saw her squeezing into my wedding dress. As she did so, the seams tore, and the side zipper alongside the sheer backing of the dress fully burst open. I felt faint. I had spent thousands of dollars on the dress and more to get it tailored. "What have you done?" I yelled. She only replied, "Don't worry, we can fix it." I asked why she would try to fit into my dress after our conversation, after I explicitly told her no. She repeated that she wanted to see if it still fit her and wanted to feel like a bride. This was less than 2 months before the wedding, and she ruined my dress. She acted like it wasn't a big deal and told me I was overreacting. I explained that I wasn't sure I could get it fixed in time or if I could even get it fixed at all. The original tailor I went to had a wait list for months, and I was lucky to get the appointment time I did before the wedding. She again didn't seem bothered and didn't even apologize. My husband overheard us arguing and ran into the room to see what was going on. He looked at the dress on the floor and asked what happened. I told him that his mum ripped my dress, and he looked horrified. He told her that she would have to pay for a new one as soon as possible since the wedding was only a few weeks away. But I had my heart set on that dress. It was perfect for me. Before I could express that to my fiancé, she refused, saying it wasn't her fault that I got an unreliable wedding dress. She tried to paint it as if she were doing me a favor, saying I should thank her because if a wardrobe malfunction happened at the wedding, I wouldn't have had any time to get a new dress. I snapped, telling her there would have been no malfunction because she was 4 sizes bigger than me. My husband chimed in, saying that wouldn't have been an issue because we got the dress tailored to fit me, but she wasn't listening. I demanded that she pay for my new dress since she ruined this one, but she continued refusing. Realizing I wasn't getting anywhere, I stormed out. My fiancé stayed in the room, continuing to talk to his mum. I should have known she would be a pain while we planned the wedding because she was always overstepping boundaries. One time when Brian and I first started dating, she told me she would always be the number 1 woman in his life. I didn't think much of it until she made it known that Brian was her boy. Whenever we were together, she would often text and ask when he was coming home or even call in the middle of our date to gossip about her girlfriends. After I told him how I felt, he put an end to that, and she was bearable for the next few years. Sometimes she overstepped my boundaries, but not enough for me to leave Brian. Ripping my dress was the worst one yet. The next day, I went to the same bridal shop where I found my last dress. I crossed my fingers, hoping to find one that didn't need tailoring since we were low on time. When I got there, I was met by the same happy woman who helped me last time. She asked why I was back, and I was too embarrassed to tell her the real reason, so I told her the other one got chewed up by my dog. We looked for hours to find a new dress, and when I finally found one I loved, I FaceTimed Brian to show him. His mum was with him in the car. He looked in love with the dress and said I looked stunning. I saw his mum looking over at the phone and sighing in disapproval. I ignored it the first time. He asked how much it was and I told him $1,500 and that we didn't need a tailor for it. He was satisfied with the price, and then his mum chimed in, saying, "I hope it's more durable than the other dress, because that one was terrible." My face turned red. She said that on speakerphone while I was right in front of the stylist. I quickly told them I would speak with them later and hung up. I apologized for her behavior, and the stylist laughed, saying she'd heard worse. The next few days were the roughest points in our relationship. Brian and I got into petty arguments about the dress, and his actions really caught me off guard. Out of nowhere, he started siding with his mum. He said he would pay for the new dress and told me not to worry about it. I told him that unless he set boundaries, his mum would continue thinking she could run our relationship. Brian said he felt torn between us because he loved us both and wished we could be on the same page. 2 weeks before the wedding, we were at dinner and his mum brought up the wedding dress again. She asked where it was, and I said I wouldn't tell her so she couldn't ruin that one too. Brian said I was being petty and to let it go, but this was the truth. She then claimed I was trying to steal the last thing in her life that made her happy and that I should be grateful to have her in my life. At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was my friend Emily. Brian said he invited her to dinner because I seemed tense these past few weeks. That night, I finally felt a sense of relief. We didn't mention the dress. I enjoyed my friend and the food was amazing. The next day, I got a call from Brian's aunt saying I should stop bringing up the dress and that I was overreacting. Even though it was my wedding, she said I was wrong for demanding money from his mum since she was living paycheck to paycheck. More of the family called me leading up to the wedding, some siding with me, others with Brian's mum. When I brought this up to Brian, he said maybe his mum didn't mean to ruin the dress and it's just a dress. Plus, we already got another one. Every time we were all together, he tried to de-escalate the arguments, but it seemed like each time his mum and I argued, she seemed satisfied as if he was taking her side. The more we talked, the more it felt like he was agreeing with her. We spoke about the dress one afternoon, and he told me the dress shouldn't ruin my big day and maybe I was overreacting. I tried to explain it was the principle and that she would only make our day worse, but he couldn't see it. The closer we got to the wedding, the less he spent time with me. I noticed his mum would always call or stay with him while we tried to be together. It started to feel like the first time we dated again. While Brian and I were picking out flowers for my bouquet, his mum insisted on being there. I told him I didn't want her there, but he said I should let her since she had no one else in her life to hang out with. Reluctantly, I agreed. The second I found flowers I liked, I could feel her eyes staring me down. They were champagne and pink, my favourite colours, and I wanted to buy them. I asked Brian how he felt, and he said they looked great. Then his mum said those colours weren't right for the wedding and I should go with red roses instead since they symbolise passion and romance. Instantly, Brian told me she had a point and I should consider her opinion. I ended up getting the red roses but wasn't too happy about it. As we were driving home, he suggested I let his mum have more input on the wedding since she had a good call on the flowers. I asked what he meant, and he said she would probably be good at helping plan the rest of the wedding since she had experience. He said she really wanted to help and be part of the day. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The person who almost ruined my wedding day claimed she wanted to help it. I said if he wanted her to be a part of the wedding so badly, he should marry her instead of me. He was shocked and said he didn't mean it in a bad way, but that's how he always was. I would say I didn't like how he always took her side or tried to include her so much in our relationship, and then he'd paint me as the hostile one. I didn't want to argue, so I sat in silence for the rest of the car ride. The final week before the wedding, Brian's mum walked into the living room and asked where we were catering from. I told her it was a local restaurant I loved growing up. She said I should cater from a fancier restaurant for a more upscale experience. I told her it was my celebration, but she ignored me and proceeded to ask where the venue was. I showed her, and she asked why I chose that place because there was a lot of space to fit more people. I said it was the perfect size for the guest list. She ignored me again and then asked who the guests were. I was silent. Then she started naming off guests and asking who they were. Brian chimed in, saying his mum was just curious about who would be at the wedding. I looked at him and said she was trying to control everything and didn't care what I wanted. He insisted she was just curious, but I knew better. The wedding was perfect. Despite all the hardships, Brian's mum didn't say or do anything crazy during the ceremony. It wasn't until the reception that she asked to give a toast. Brian told her she didn't have to, but she insisted. I didn't hear everything she said, but she kept talking about how proud she was of her son for finding the right girl. I tried to ignore her and focused on enjoying my night with my husband. My friends and family were around us, dancing and laughing. Brian's mum kept bringing up the dress again, saying she didn't mean to cause drama. I tried my best to brush it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't sorry at all. But the night ended beautifully, and I was now married to the love of my life. Since then, Brian has tried to be more understanding and set better boundaries with his mum. We've grown stronger as a couple, but it hasn't been easy. I've learned to stand my ground and communicate better. We still have our challenges, but we work through them together. It hasn't been perfect, but it's been worth it.